Today's reading from the Rays of the One Light is from week 47, Reincarnation, the Spiral Staircase. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In the book of Revelation, chapter 3, Jesus Christ tells us, Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. There is a difference between church dogmas, which are based on recent deductions from scriptural statements, and the pronouncements of wisdom, which are based on the inner realization of scriptural truths. Reason, like a train, can only follow already existing tracks of human experience. Human memory, being short, is seldom able to cross back over the threshold of a person's present existence. Biblical references to previous lifetimes on earth are overlooked in the deductive process, and we find them therefore excluded from the body of official dogma. Nevertheless, such references exist. The Bible itself presents them, as does Jesus in this passage, not as abstract teaching, but as direct, personal perception of truth. In the same way as Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita silences Arjuna's reasonable doubts on the subject not by reasoned argument, but by the frank statement contained in the 4th chapter of that great scripture. Arjuna, you and I have passed through many births. I know all of them, though you, O chastiser of foes, recall them not. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our satsang today. And most of you are old friends, but to new friends, I want to introduce myself. My name is Brahmachari Vasudeva. I was in Chandigarh until 2 weeks ago, so I'm a relatively new Pune resident, but I'm very happy to be with my spiritual family here in Pune. And this is a very interesting topic as I was preparing for it and thinking about it, reincarnation, the spiral staircase. Now, the staircase can take us up or it can take us the other place down. And I was just, it's a fascinating topic, and I like interacting about reincarnation, sometimes even with strangers or people who are not necessarily on the spiritual path. It's just a passing fascination. I don't know why or what, or let's just say I'm weird. We'll end it there. But before we get into some of those interactions on how sometimes our understanding of reincarnation, or my understanding of reincarnation before I came on the spiritual path, was somewhat not clear, not just as clean in my understanding as I could have been, until I understood what Yogananda ji and Swami Kriyananda ji brought forward. But something I wanted to start with was sharing something which Yogananda ji wrote, which kind of startled me when I read it for the first time, which was today. He said, if there is no truth in the theory of reincarnation, then it is useless to have any belief in any form of religion. And I thought, wow. And then he goes on to say, because reincarnation shows you that life does not end with death, that you are the soul. You go on until you learn the lesson and until you have achieved the perfection. Like we read in the Bible, be ye therefore perfect, for thy Father in heaven is perfect, which unfortunately over time has been translated to, be therefore good, be therefore this or that. But what is expected of us is perfection. And until we achieve that perfection, until we realize that this life is for our education and entertainment and really not get attached not get pulled into desires, not get pulled into this or that, then we kind of continue coming back. If need be, Yogananda ji said 1,000,000,000 times. The only difference is in his case, he was ready to come as an avatar, as a free soul to help us. But if we have desires, then we're going to keep coming back, but not out of choice, but out of force. So that is very interesting when I thought about it. That okay, how often do I even live my day-to-day life thinking about reincarnation, or how my action has an equal and opposite reaction, as we learn with the law of karma. But we'll take a step back. I wanted to share this nice juicy story which I had with it was in the corporate world when I was in the corporate office, and we used to do audits. I was a chartered accountant, and you look at numbers, and you look at numbers of this incarnation. There is no such thing as numbers of previous incarnation because you don't know them, or at least on paper, it doesn't exist. So anyways, I was having lunch, and this gentleman was not necessarily in my own team, but he was something of the category of my boss's colleague. But somehow I didn't hold back, and my lunches used to be very philosophical. So I had just seen a video about life after death, and somebody having an experience of near-death experience, and I was sharing with a few friends of mine, and this superior of mine somehow heard me very enthusiastically and excitedly sharing this story, which I said, look, isn't this amazing? And he pulled me aside, and he said, look, there is no such thing as reincarnation. I said, what do you mean there's no such thing as reincarnation? He said, nothing. You die and it's the end. I said, what do you mean that it's the end? The soul continues. It's just the body which has at the end. He said, no, it's all the end. Finish. It's finished. I said, okay, let's discuss a little bit before we say it's finished. And I said, but how do you explain the vast variety in this universe? Somebody is born rich, somebody is born poor, somebody is born intelligent, somebody is born not so intelligent. And there's just so much. Somebody is healthy and fit, somebody is born with just diseases, and just it's one thing after the other. How do you explain all of that? He said, it's all random. It's all random. I said, well, it seems a bit too random. It can't be that random. So anyways, we went back and forth, and it was a very thrilling conversation. It went on for 15, 20 minutes. We I tried my best, but he wasn't ready to budge, nor was I ready to budge in what I had my faith in. So finally, he thought he could play the age card, which people do. So finally, when he was feeling that, I was going in a reasonable way, I was winning, he said, now, before we go any further, because, we are men of numbers, how old are you? And I said, sir, I think I was 25 then. So I said, sir, I'm 25 years old. And he said, aha! And I said, in this incarnation. And he took his fist, he punched me on my shoulder. He said, okay, we had a good conversation. Let's get back to work. But isn't it amazing? Now that is one extreme of, just there's no such thing as reincarnation. You die and what happens? It's a very convenient explanation to have that there is no such thing of, you paying for what you do, because then you can party hard, you can do whatever you want, and there is no follow-up for that, because this is the life. Let's do as much as we can, and let's party hard in whichever language that means for different people. But then, even when it comes to friends who believe in reincarnation, it could be, don't do this next incarnation, you'll be born as a blank. You fill in the blank now. A spider, or this, or that. I stepped on a spider, I don't know who that was. But as we have all understood after, coming to this stage, for us to be in this room, as Patanjali says, he starts his aphorisms, his Yoga Sutras by saying, and now we come to the study of yoga. Adha Yoga Anushashanam. My Sanskrit is not great, but that's what I read this morning. So, but now we come to the study of yoga. And the word now, usually translators just miss it out. They don't even bother to look at now. But let's imagine if I were to start the satsang saying, now we start the satsang. The immediate question is, what was before that to start the satsang? What happened before? So similarly, now we come to the study of yoga. What was before the study of yoga? Well, there were some lessons. There were some hard knocks. There were some realizations where, oh, this world is not it. As we learn, and as Swami Kriyanandaji and Yoganandaji used to say, that every act in one way or the other is, and I'm paraphrasing, every act in one way or the other is inspired by the fact that we either want to avoid pain or we want to have pleasure or happiness in what we are doing. And now that happiness, pleasure, or avoiding of pain can happen on higher octaves or it can happen on lower octaves. On higher octaves, it can be, oh, I want to meditate more, I want to chant more, I want to go deeper in my spiritual practices. On the lower octave, the other extreme could be, I want to numb my senses when the three main delusions, let's just put it for simplicity right now. Yoganandaji said the three main delusions which keep us coming back again and again and again is wine, sex, and money. And attachment to money, not just money. We all need money. This is not a satsang where we are going to say, don't be attached to money or don't have money. And as you come for the blessing, offer all your money on the altar and go light. No. Yoganandaji, Swami Kriyanandaji clarified it's the attachment to money. The attachment where it feels like, yeah, if I have this much money, then I'll be secure. And that security can be different things for different people. But the attachment is what we are after. And that is what keeps us coming back again and again and again. Swami Kriyanandaji had a brother monk, his name was Norman, and he had a dream. And in this dream, he dreamt 80,000 years ago. He was in a place called Lemuria, and he was with Yoganandaji, and here he is now with Yoganandaji. And Swamiji was shocked. 80,000 years ago, gee, that must take a long time. And so Swamiji asked Yoganandaji the question that, have I been your disciple for thousands of years? And I think Yoganandaji didn't want to dishearten him, or probably he didn't want to dishearten us, because us reading that is like, oh, and he said, it's been a long time. That's all I'll say. And then Swamiji, just to, confirm further, like, just like what, essentially he was just trying to figure out like that he was not the only one who has been coming again and again. That what happened? Like what happens over here? Why do we keep coming back? Or yes, I've been your disciple for thousands of years, but I mean mentally at least that was my thought, that if I've been your disciple for thousands of years, I must have been a really slow disciple, master. Like, what was I doing? And anyways, Yoganandaji said that, the desire for this thing or that thing take us away. Now that this thing or that thing, in Swamiji's case, he said something particular, which was specific advice. But in our case too, there is some this thing or that thing which hold us back, which keep us back. It certainly holds me back. So how about, I was thinking, looking at reincarnation rather than, oh no, I don't want to keep coming back. It has a very negative spin to it. I don't want to keep coming back. And that's one way to look at it. And the other way to look at it is, as one lady was speaking with one of the devotees, and when she got to know about reincarnation, she got so excited. She said, guess what? We get to come back. Like, oh, this incarnation, I can enjoy these things. Next incarnation, I can enjoy. We don't want that either for our own sake. But what we do want is, Master, however long you want, God, however long you want, I do not want to indulge. I do not want to have the desire for them. I have to eat, I get hungry, but I'll see it as pleasing you, pleasing this body which you have given to me. I have to earn money because I have to keep the family going, which you have given to me, but I don't want to see it as an egoic desire that I want money, but I want to see it as a God-given duty which you have given to me that I'm trying to fulfill. And what happens over there? Where are desires coming from? Where they're coming from the ego. Where does karma stay? It stays with the ego. If there is no Vasudeva, then there's no ego to be tied to Vasudeva. And how can we free ourselves from the ego? By seeing one way is to see God in everything that we do. That God is doing this. God is listening to this satsang. God is giving the satsang. God is earning the money. God is eating the food. God is sitting on the chair. God is exercising through me. God is meditating through me. And here, now I just wanted to end with this fun story about desires. And then, in fact, some of our friends today are taking the sadhaka vows. And there comes a time in each of our lives where we are like, okay, I've played around, I've done this thing and that thing, as Swamiji says. Now, how about I affirm, I take a vow, I want to move forward. But this story kind of illustrates the long journey in a nutshell. So there was a man, and this man was spiritual somewhat, and he lived a good life. But this life, he was a little unhealthy, thin, and he said, this didn't work out well. So as he was leaving the body, there's an angel which appears and says, hey, you've lived a spiritual life. What would you like? And the man says, everything was fine, but can I be a little more healthy and well-built in the coming incarnation, which I get? The angel is like, sure, absolutely, granted. Man comes back, healthy, fit, but one thing he forgot to pray for was to eat, you need money. And he didn't have money. So anyways, he was poor and he was healthy, but he was struggling to feed himself day after day after day. And then the incarnation ends and the angel appears. Okay, it's time to go back to the heavens. I said, yeah, but we'll be coming back and this didn't quite work out well. Can I also be rich? Just plus rich, healthy plus rich. He said, okay, fine. So he comes healthy and rich. Healthy, rich, what happens? He's lived a long life. He's lived a long, lonely life. And the angel comes at the time of his death and says, now what? And the man says, look, everything was good, but I was lonely. Can you give me a partner? I don't want to live a lonely life. The angel says, okay, fine. And it goes on. Next incarnation, healthy plus rich plus perfect partner and wife. And the wife dies early. Oh, that's tragic. But he misses her. And then he dies. And the angel is finally like, now what, sir? Please. He says, okay, healthy, wealthy, wife who lives long. And the angel asks, are you sure you've covered all your bases? Is there more? Do you want anything more? He said, no, this is it. This will get it done. And the wife lives long, but too long. And he unfortunately gets into a relationship with his secretary, and she was always after his money and not in love with him. She takes the money, runs away, and the guy is just tired. Now, this is a short story, by the way. It seemed long, but it is a short story. It's been incarnation after incarnation after incarnation. But I don't want to say, oh my God, I don't want to end with that. But how about seeing it that, yeah, we've had a positive share of incarnations, we've had a positive share of entertainment, certainly, and also some difficult education. But how about now we say, ho gaya, I'm done. I want to climb the staircase, but now this time in an upward direction. And what can we do? We can meditate more. We can be in satsang more. We can study the scriptures. We can see every little thing that we do. What is the repercussion? Is it taking me closer towards God, or is it taking me away from God? And I'll finish with this reading from Swami Kriyananda ji's book, Demystifying Patanjali. Okay, so Swamiji writes, how many past lives have we wandered? The Bhagavad Gita declares, with a new day of Brahma, when creation is brought into outward manifestation once again, God casts out yet again all those souls who have not yet attained spiritual freedom. And the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, that many of those souls who appeared at the first manifestation, states that many of those souls who appeared at the first manifestation of present day of Brahma are still wandering in delusion at the end of it. The length of time we have all been wandering is almost frightening, at least to the reasoning mind. The scriptures declared that it takes between 8 to 12 million incarnations for life to evolve up to the human state. Upon reaching this relatively high state, the ego becomes fully defined. And with that obstacle now defined, one may wander uncounted millions of lives more before reaching the level of freedom I've described. How long? That depends on us. For with the ego clearly formed, we have the free will to move forward, to move upward or downward. Does all this seem cruel on God's part? Reflect on a very simple truth. We wouldn't be wandering if we didn't want to. Krishna declares in the Bhagavad Gita, get away from my ocean of suffering and misery. The trouble is that in this world of duality, suffering and misery are equally balanced by pleasure and happiness. And so it is that people go bouncing on forever, hoping and forever disillusioned, but they needn't do so if they would only turn to God. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.